Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Nate, and today we're going to be converting this space behind me into this. Stay tuned, we'll be right back with you. Welcome back to part 4 of the DIY built-in series. Part 3, we went ahead and worked on the shelving unit. So what we did is we went ahead and cut out our lumber here to the proper dimensions. Once again, we are working with 3/4 inch oak plywood. After that, we brought everything inside and we started to assemble our shelves. Be sure to check out the last part here to get the full details on what we did and why we did this. We went ahead and prepped these shelves for the electrical as well as the LED lighting strips. Here we have the unit up in the proper position. Went ahead and secured that to the top. Secured it to a stud in the wall. Then we went ahead and covered up our screw holes with some wooden dowels. And that's where we left off. So now we're going to go ahead and start assembling the face frame. That's going to be very similar to what we did for the lower cabinet side, except this is going to be up for the shelves. We use the same process as we did before with some pocket holes, some glue, and some pocket hole screws. Just to keep these corners secure, I used a couple brad nails. At this point here, I wanted to do a quick dry fit, just to make sure that the horizontal pieces are exactly where they need to be. Did one last quick dry fit, just to make sure everything looked great. And then I did the same process I have been doing for this whole project, where I used some pre-wood conditioner, stain, and then finish. Now these LED lighting for the shelving unit is totally optional, but I think it kind of gives it a nice ambiance. Here I got the instructions for the LED lights that I purchased off of Amazon. I'll have all of this stuff linked down below in the description if you're curious. Now, I don't want to get too technical here with the math. You have to do a little bit to figure out the size of an LED driver you need to buy. Structure, you can tell that these lights use 4.8 watts per meter. Most of the time in the United States, we typically use feet here instead. And so I need to do a quick conversion here to figure out our meters. So as you're probably aware, it is 3.28 feet per meter. Now I've got 3 sections of 8 feet horizontal here that I'm going to be covering with lights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and divide 8 by 3.28. Gives us a total of 2.439 meters. So I'm going to go ahead and round up here to 2.5 as my distance, and then I had 4.8 watts, which I'm also going to round up to 5. So you can see here I've got, and that'll leave us with 12.5 watts per strand. Now since we're going to be working with 3 total strands, 12.5 times 3 would give us a total of 37.5 watts. Now that would be at full capacity. Typically, the best practice when working with circuits is that you don't want to exceed 80% of its max capacity. So I'm going to take 37.5 times 1.8 to give us 67.5 watts minimum. So that tells me we want to find a driver that can hold at least 67.5 watts. The particular driver I got here is actually 100 watts. I found a couple different variations here. I found one that would have covered it. I can't remember if it was 60 or 80 watts. However, for an additional 10 bucks, I could bump that up to 100 watts. So I went ahead and did so. So here you'll see is the particular driver I got. They make several different sizes in regards to this actual physical size of the driver as well as the capacity. And here you will see over here on the right side is going to be where you're going to be drawing in your live wire or your live voltage. And then on the left is what's going to be hooked up to our LED strips. I've also got this 18 gauge travel wire. A couple punch outs here where you can bring the electrical wire in, and be sure to follow the wiring diagram when necessary. Alright, so now let's go ahead and start in with the soldering. Now I'm by no means an expert at this. This is actually the first time I've done it, so bear with me. Here you can see there's designated cutting space. So depending on how long you want this, you'll make sure you want to cut it at these spots just so you don't ruin the LEDs. They do make a tool called Helping Hands, I believe it is, just to kind of keep things secure. However, I don't envision doing this too often, so I just went ahead and used some tape. Then we're going to go ahead and prep our low voltage wire here. There are a ton of great videos here on YouTube on how to solder. Definitely encourage you to watch those just to give you kind of tips and pointers. And then we're going to work on our switch here. Always be sure to make sure your power is off. Once we're confident there is no power to the lines, we're going to start to wire up our dimmer switch. Now, like I mentioned, there are specific switches that are compatible with each driver, so be sure to reference that material as well. Before we get too carried away, I'm going to do a quick test here just to make sure that our LED strips are working as planned. Once you know everything's working as planned, this is where things get a little bit tricky. Depending on your setup, it may be easier than others. However, I've got to fish these wires behind this shelving unit. You have to get a little bit creative. There are tools to help with this, but ultimately you've just got to do the best you can to fish those wires through. This is just a quick close-up of the divot that we kind of cut out here in the previous video, and this is where our LED strip lights are going to slide through. There are different ways you could go about this, and this is just how I've chosen to approach it. We're going to go ahead and secure our LED strip lights to our shelves. This particular set of lights I have here have a nice adhesive on the back. However, if it is not sticky enough, you could always use hot glue. As you can see on the left, I didn't get video of this, but that is the connection between our outlet to the driver. Here I am securing the low voltage wire. In my particular setup here, the red wires go to the positive and the black wires go to the negative. Now, one of the things you want to be cautious with these drivers on the install location is you want to make sure that it gets ample airflow. These things can get a little warm. We just want to take the proper precautions. This isn't the most ideal spot because you can technically see it from the room. However, you can hide it with a picture frame. The main thing was I wanted this to be out in the open to get the proper air, as well as I didn't want it to be accessible to any younger children. Make sure you get a nice twist in there and make sure they are definitely secure. You'll want to check and make sure you use the correct wire nut as well. Once you've got the connections all made, go ahead and tuck these wires in nicely, and you can go ahead and close the lid. I also didn't get this on video, but you also want to secure this driver to the shelf. And now the moment of truth. Do a quick test here with the dimmer. All looks great. And of course, we have to get a quick shot of it with the lights off. Last final step here is to put in our face frame. I secured that with a few brad nails, and we are in business. Alright guys, so that wraps up this part for now. Be sure to check out the description down below. I'll be linking each part as I release them. So no matter when you're watching this, you should be able to find the updated list down below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, stick around, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this ride.